Am I now online? Ayn, can you check? Oh, I'm online, isn't it? Wow. What a beginning of their stream. For whatever reason, this countdown did not worked. I don't know why. And am I online? Ayn? Yes? Oh, okay. Thank you all, dear friends, for joining this second live stream of mine. And as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully you will find it informative and interesting. I can see only four people are online on YouTube right now. Maybe there is nobody on Rumble, and that will be a good indicator that I should stop making these live streams whatsoever. But anyways, thank you to all of you for joining the streams. And yes, if you by chance want to support my work, dear friends, you can use several means. Links are on this within the description box and in the pinned comment. Okay, quite confusing starter, I will say, for this live stream, and I'm gonna start straight away with the news without any further delay. I know there is a phone conversation between Trump and Putin that is taking place right now at this particular moment, and towards the end of the stream, I will check Russian media if there will be any information on that, and of course, I will share that information too. But I personally have no freaking idea why Russian president is wasting time talking to that freaking moron that Trump and the entire U.S. administration is, and Western so-called elites in general. But I will start with this report from RT that Russia reportedly makes a major glide bomb breakthrough. So Russian forces may have tested an upgraded glide bomb capable of striking targets up to 150 kilometers away, according to military-focused Telegram channels. Regular Russian glide bombs are typically older gravity bombs modified with aerodynamic kits that add precision and extended range. Most existing models have an estimated reach of between 40 and 70 kilometers, depending on weight and the deployment altitude. The weapons are considered cost-effective and highly destructive, allowing Russian aircraft to demolish fortified Ukrainian frontline positions from a safe distance. The Военный обозреватель military channel on the Telegram claimed that Russian strike on the city of Nikolaev on the positions of enemy on Tuesday was carried out with a glide bomb that traveled between 120 and 150 kilometers before hitting its target. The Ukrainian military had earlier reported a glide bomb threat over Nikolaev, later confirming that their Su-34 fighter jet had launched munition from airspace above the Black Sea. Officials said their type of weapon was still being identified, adding that there were no casualties from their strike. Yeah, of course, there were no casualties. I guess entire point of deployment of enemy forces were obliterated. But anyways, I think this is very significant information because the glide bombs do play quite an important role on the battlefield, and the Russian aerospace forces are pounding enemy strongholds with these glide bombs, right? And now, if Russian militaries have munition, this relatively simple munition with a range of 150 kilometers, of course, that will make much more safer operations for Russian aircraft because they will launch this munition from a far distance away from potential areas of work of air defense systems of enemy. And same time, increased range, of course, will mean that supply and support lines of Kiev regime's forces on crucial directions will be somewhat neutralized, right? Which is definitely good news. Next information that I want to share with you, dear friends, is coming from TASS News Agency. So Ukrainian armed forces lost approximately 1,670 military personnel during the previous 24 hours. Information is based on report of Russian Defense Ministry. I can give you some specifics on that. According to the Ministry of Defense, basically, their enemy lost up to 235 troops in the area of the responsibility of a North group of forces over 230 from the action of the West Group, up to 215 from the South Group, over 540 from the Sand Group of Forces, up to 375 from the East Group, and up to 75 from the Dnieper Group. Defense Ministry also added that units of their North Group of Forces defeated formations of their mechanized and airborne assault brigades of their enemy, an assault regiment of their AFU, and their territorial defense brigade near the villages of Vorachino, Kondratovka, Pavlovka, and their Sadki. In the Sumy region, in the Kharkov direction, units of mechanized and motorized infantry brigades of the Ukrainian forces were defeated near the villages of Vilcha and Volchansk in the Kharkov region. Vovchansk, not Volchansk city, but Vovchansk. Ukrainian armed forces lost an armored combat vehicle, 17 vehicles, and 355 self-prepared artillery units, an electronic warfare station, and 4 supply depots were also destroyed. And this is when it comes to North Group of Forces alone, by the way. Units of a West Group of Forces defeated the personnel and equipment of 2 mechanized brigades of the enemy, an assault brigade of the Ukrainian armed forces, and the territorial defense brigade near the settlements of Kupiansk, Kurilovka, Petrovka, and Sadova in the Kharkov region, and Drobisheva, Krasny Liman, and Novoselovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy lost 3 armored combat vehicles in this direction, including US-made HM Humvee, basically, and UK-made Snatch armored vehicle, 24 other types of vehicles, 3 artillery pieces, including 2 from NATO countries, Grad multiple rocket launch system, and 10 electronic warfare stations, and 9 munition depots. Units of the Southern Group of Forces defeated formations of 4 mechanized brigades and airborne assault brigade, Marine Brigade, and the Territorial Defense Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces near the settlements of Artyoma, Beristovka, Dronovka, Zvanovka, Ivanopolie, Konstantinovka, Pleshevka, Severska, and Stepanovka in the DPR. The enemy lost 2 armored combat vehicles in this direction, including US-made Max Pro armored car and 10 other vehicles. Munition depot and 2 supply depots were also destroyed. The Sand Group of Forces, where most intense fighting is taking place, defeated the personnel and equipment of heavy mechanized brigade, 5 mechanized other brigades, and their airborne brigade, also Jagger brigade and their assault brigade of the enemy, 2 airborne assault brigades, 2 assault regiments, and Territorial Defense Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces near the settlements of Dmitrov, Kotlino, Krasnoarmeysk, which is Pokrovska, Nova Alexandrovka, Rodinskaya, and Udachna in the DPR. In Russia, by the way, Pokrovsk and Mirnograd are called Krasnoarmeysk and Dmitrov. Just a clarification there to avoid any confusion. The Ukrainian Armed Forces lost an armored personnel carrier, 3 vehicles, and field artillery piece. Units of the East Group of Forces continued to advance deep into enemy's defenses. Formations of the mechanized brigade, 2 assault regiments of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, and the 2 territorial defense brigades were defeated near the settlements of Oleksievka and Privolye in the Dnipropetrovsk region, and Krasnogorsk, Poltavka, and Chervone in Zaporozhye regions. The enemy lost 8 armored combat vehicles, 15 motor vehicles, 7 artillery pieces, including US-made Paladin 155mm propelled artillery unit, and the Croatian-made RAK SA-12 multiple launch rocket system, and an electronic warfare station. And this is all happening, by the way, in just previous 24 hours. Units of the Dnieper forces defeated the personnel and equipment of their mechanized brigade, 3 coastal defense brigades of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, and the 3 territorial defense brigades near the settlements of Belogorye and Novoandreevka in the Zaporozhye region, and Dniprovsk, Olchevka, and Shlyakhovo in Kherson region. 7 vehicles, 3 electronic warfare systems, and 2 munition depots were destroyed by Dnipro group of forces, on top of military personnel, of course. Overall, as you can see, dear friends, just in previous 24 hours, Kyiv regime lost several dozen of military equipment, from armored personnel carriers to artillery systems, multi-launch rocket systems, and so on, and also more than 1,600 military personnel. Also, in this report, by the way, was not included this report that is coming today, that Russian armed forces destroyed the control cabin and the launcher of the Ukrainian Patriot air defense systems. And well, without a control cabin, of course, whatever was left from the battery is useless because it cannot operate, right? So quite a significant success here too. I guess tomorrow Russian Defense Ministry will report a little more details about it. The control cabin and the launcher of the American Patriot air defense system and their AN-MPQ-65 radar station was destroyed by the operational tactical aviation, attack drones, missile forces, and artillery of the Russian armed forces. The Ministry of Defense reported their good news again. Also, dear friends, RT is reporting that West is distorting battlefield picture in Ukraine conflict, according to Russian envoy, excuse me, in UK, Andrei Kelin. So the Western media is distorting their battlefield situation in the Ukraine conflict by hyping up Kyiv's limited successes while ignoring Moscow's steady advances. Russian ambassador to UK, Andrei Kelin, has stated in an interview aired by TRT World on Thursday. Kelin rejected the notion that the conflict had reached a stalemate, saying that Russian forces hold initiative along their whole entire front line, basically, which is factually accurate statement. Western outlets, he argued, are trying to single out some successes by the Ukrainian army while overlooking Russia's day-to-day progress, which is true, isn't it? And members of our community from the Western countries can confirm this, basically. I will just ask question, when you last time hear anything about Russian success on the battlefield? When Western so-called media reported about it? I mean, this morning, I shared in the first update information about 2 another settlements that were liberated by Russian forces, right? One in the Dnipropetrovsk region, another in DPR on the southern eastern flank of Pokrovsk. And I wonder if any Western media outlets report about it whatsoever. And of course, tomorrow we will have more reports about further advances of the Russian armed forces, more liberated settlements, but Western so-called media will ignore that too, obviously. And on a 1,200 kilometer front line, if not more, if Kyiv regime's forces will manage to achieve some local scale success, just anywhere, all the Western so-called media outlets, or almost all of them, will begin to talk about it. And look, you see, I mean, this is such a great achievement and this and that, while, come on, man, in reality, as Russian ambassador into UK, Andrei Kelin, is saying, initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line. And I will add on my part that there is nothing that Western so-called elites can do to regain initiative, literally nothing, right? Not possible, period. Also, dear friends, we have this report, interesting report from Spectator, Western also so-called media, which is coming up with a hit piece again on Zelensky's personality, right? And yet again, whenever I see this kind of hit pieces on Zelensky, I'm always thinking, you know what, Washington, I guess, still in a discussion with the London, who gonna replace Zelensky, right? Otherwise, I don't think Washington will authorize these so-called media outlets, Western media outlets, to come up with some hit pieces. But anyways, let me give you some details what Spectator write. So the Spectator is writing that stripping Trukhanov of citizenship is an outrageous attack on democracy. And the headline is that Zelensky's attack on Odessa is a step too far. And yesterday, dear friends, I reported that Zelensky revoke citizenship of Odessa mayor on the basis of false claims that he has Russian citizenship, while in reality Trukhanov himself has no Russian citizenship, has no relationships with Russia, nothing, right? Otherwise, he would be arrested, by the way. He not just would be stripped of citizenship and consequently position of a mayor, but he would be just arrested or killed straight away, right? Let's make no mistake on that. If Zelensky's or the Western secret services had any information that this Nazi, right, this freaking Nazi, mayor of Odessa, Trukhanov, who is affiliate of Zelensky, was at least, right? If they had any information that this personality was somehow linked to Russia, they would kill him, right? But nowadays, according to reports, by the way, Zelensky is preparing the ground for potential elections, right? And he is taking out, or at least trying to take out everybody who can become a sort of issue for him, right? And mayor of Odessa was such a person that Zelensky see as a potential threat, and he was neutralized. That's it. He was neutralized, and to keep him quiet, to shut him completely, maybe they will kill him also, right? But it is interesting that Western propaganda outlet is also paying attention to these internal developments on this NATO-occupied territory, right? You don't see this kind of stuff that often, isn't it? But anyways, according to a Spectator, Kiev has launched a triple assault on Odessa, its language, its history, and its elected leadership. Wow, they remember that there is some issues with the Russian language. Goodness me, man. And when me and many other people in alternative media were saying that Russian language is basically banned for native Russian speakers, Western, what answers we were getting from the West? Oh, this is propaganda, man. This is propaganda, right? There is no assault on Russian language. There are no assault on Orthodox Church, Orthodox Christianity. Nothing like that is happening. Ukraine is a democracy. Zelensky is a freaking Democrat, right? And now Western propaganda outlets, by the way, in this particular case, British one, right? Spectator is a British one, but which forces control these Western media outlets? It's anybody's guess. In any ways, clearly we are observing preparations of the ground by the Western propaganda to replace Zelensky, right? Only question I have right now, Zelensky gonna be replaced by British puppet Zaluzhny or by, let's say, US puppet Arestovich, or maybe someone else, right? That's the only question I have personally, because time for Zelensky is running out. That's for sure, right? And Zelensky is nevertheless, Zelensky, his administration, his inner circle is trying to hold on to power as much as they can. And even though this Trukhanov, this criminal and the mass murderer, right, was removed from Odessa administration yesterday, already today we have reports that Odessa City Hall has already introduced Sergei Lusak as a new head of the city. A city's freshly created military administration. Lusak previously led the Dnipropetrovsk regional administration. Another, one mass murderer and war criminal and a terrorist, Trukhanov, that had some issues with Zelensky, also a terrorist and a mass murderer, was replaced by another criminal, right? Sergei Lusak, because there is no decent human beings in that system, in this so-called Ukraine. Not a single decent human being is there. None. And now we are observing how these rats, these disgusting rats, are eating each other. And you know what? I enjoy it. Let them kill each other, man. Fuck them all, right? Okay, that's been said there. That's been said. Let's continue with some other news. And in this morning's update, I did spoke about statements that Russian head of Russian Federal Security Service, Bortnikov, made about terrorist activity of the UK against Russian Federation. I will just remind you, in case you did not pay any attention to my previous update, that according to director of Russian FSB, Alexander Bortnikov, UK's SIS, UK's SIS special forces are directly involved in hostilities against Russia, which is not really that surprising. And also, by the way, I can add that it's not just SAS, but also British Special Boat Service is actively engaged in hostilities against Russia. And both these special forces have suffered quite significant losses, according to reports that I have seen, right, in past years. And also, Bortnikov went to say that Kiev and London are preparing terrorist attacks on, he said they're sabotage, but I will say terrorist attacks. This is not sabotage, this is terrorist attack, right? On a Turkish stream pipeline that goes from Russia to Turkey under the Black Sea, and there are supplies not just Turkey, but also from Turkey, number of European states with Russian gas, right? And so, according to FSB director, Russia has received information about preparations for sabotage against the Turkish stream gas pipeline by UK. We have information that British, together with the Ukrainian intelligence services, are preparing sabotage against the Turkish stream gas pipeline. And if London already green-lighted this terrorist attack, most likely soon such an attack will happen on the Turk stream, because I don't think it is technically possible that either Russia or Turkey will be able to protect 100% of area over the Black Sea where this pipeline is laying right on the ground. It's hundreds of kilometers, by the way, hundreds of kilometers. And yet again, if London decided that they're going to destroy that pipeline, then most likely they will, as they did, by the way, with Nord Stream pipelines, right, together with Americans, with US intelligence and their militaries, right? At least there is quite high chances, I will say, that Turk Stream pipeline is going to be destroyed if London already green-lighted that operation. And also, by the way, Bortnikov went to say that a relatively recent attack on Russian nuclear triad, when strategical bombers were targeted, was also basically supervised by British intelligence services, and that means globalists were basically controlling, and globalists authorized that operation. When it comes to UK, by the way, British aristocracy, British so-called political system, and the politicians that are puppets of this aristocracy, of course, play major role in globalist movements. I spoke about it many times. So sometimes people are asking, who are the globalists? And the answer is quite, simple and on the surface. It's a European elites, by the way. It's a European aristocracies, right? Generational aristocracies and the royal families. That's what their main driving force behind the globalism is, right? They lost their empires, right? They lost physical control over their significant part of this world, but they did not lose their controls through other means. And globalism is their weapon to maintain this control through financial institutions and others, right? And among the globalists, of course, major force, most powerful force is the British aristocracy, and there are all sorts of financial clans that are serving this British aristocracy for centuries now. And that's why the City of London is still #1 financial center in this world. But UK itself, as an economy, is loosely relevant, right? It's just nothing. But City of London somehow is still main financial center in this world. How How is that? How that is working? Because main driving force behind globalism is aristocracy, European aristocracy, and most powerful one among them is British aristocracy. That's how, right? So yes, I was always saying, by the way, that this terrorist attacks on Russian nuclear triad was orchestrated by U.S. and British secret services, and now director of Russian FSB, Federal Security Service, is basically saying the same. Okay, no surprises for me, no surprises for veterans of our community that believed in my assumption, right? My judgment of the situation. But for people that only receives information from Western propaganda, this information, of course, may come as a surprise. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. Although before I do so, I'm always forgetting, by the way, to mention that well, this media project is completely subscriber funded, and in case some new members or relatively new members are watching this video right now, this live stream, I will say that if you like my work in general, maybe not every single live stream or every single video, but if you like my work in general, and if you think I deserve to be in the field of news and political commentary, then please consider to help me to maintain this project. You can do it through several means. You can donate to this project through PayPal or Boosty platforms. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty. Links are on this video description box and will be in a pinned comment after the live stream. Also, you can support through cryptocurrencies. There is address of my crypto wallet in the description box. And during the live streams, by the way, you can use super chat feature on Rumble, where my channel is monetized, and you can become a premium subscriber on Rumble. Of course, everything counts, dear friends, as a help, and truly helps to maintain this project and stay in this field. And on my part, I mean, veterans of our community can see that I'm trying, by the way. I'm trying to create as informative content as I can, right? So all the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment, as I already said. And after new segment, if there will be any questions from either Super Chat or PayPal or Boosty, of course, I will react on those questions. Okay, let's continue now with some other news. And I was here, isn't it? That Trump allegedly is preparing some victory fund for Ukraine through tariffs against China. This was originally reported by another British so-called media outlet, Telegraph. So U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the development of the victory fund for Ukraine, which will be financed by additional tariffs on goods from China, the Telegraph reports. Donald Trump has initiated work on creating of this so-called fund. The source of funding for which is expected to be new tariffs imposed by the United States on China. But I think Washington will demand similar level of tariffs to be imposed by Europe too on China, right? The president instructed Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to present their corresponding plan to his European counterparts. The presentation is expected shortly before Vladimir Zelensky's visit to Washington, scheduled for Friday, and that is for tomorrow, right, for 17th of October. So therefore, I guess either today, later on, in US, it's still afternoon on East Coast at this point, I believe, right? So most likely either today or maybe early tomorrow, we will see some details. We will receive information about some details about this plan. But I'm quite sure Washington wants European countries to join this initiative and to impose a similar level of tariffs on China as US will, right? And we already know that Washington, from 1st of November, plans to impose 100% tariffs on China, by the way. And Bessent even threatened China with 500% tariffs. And when I'm analyzing these whole developments, dear friends, what thoughts are coming to my mind? I think American political class is trying to choke Europe, to kill Europe, to kill European economy, right? Because they know this is a most effective way to fast track migration of industries from Europe and manufacturing capabilities towards the US. Seems like Washington actually wants to choke European economies, man, and that's why they are pushing for quite a while now Brussels to come up with their secondary tariffs on China, on India, on everyone else that does business with Russia, because they know perfectly well in Washington that this will literally kill European economies, man. Don't you think this is their, part of the calculus of Washington? Because if Brussels will agree on that, if European countries will agree on that, I mean, they will commit suicide, literally, right? Diplomatic sources in Washington noted that idea of imposing sanctions against China for purchasing Russian oil had previously met with the resistance from the European NATO countries. Even UK, by the way, was against labeling China, for example, as an enemy. But yet again, UK is in a little bit different position, because we all understand that London and Washington have specific relationships, by the way. US and UK are part of Anglo-Saxon world, right? And relationships between them are a bit different than, let's say, relationships between UK and any other European country, or US and any other European country. We all understand this, isn't it? So maybe London will get pass on this, right? But Washington will, and probably London too, will use whatever influence they have in Europe, and they have a lot of influence, to force Brussels to impose these secondary tariffs, because they know, by the way, they know this will decimate European economies, and their migration of manufacturing capabilities, manufacturing plants and businesses from Europe towards US will accelerate tremendously in that case, right? So let's see what is going to happen. But clearly, by the way, if you are a European citizen, you will take these actions, these steps from US as a hostile steps, I think, because how else are you going to interpret this, right? Let's see if Washington and I think London, they are operating together. Let's see if Washington and London will manage to trick Brussels to impose these secondary sanctions. They might. And dear friends, in today's first update during the live stream, I reported that Trump spoke about his upcoming meeting with Zelensky, and he mentioned that Zelensky wants to go on offensive. Maybe Zelensky wants to go on offensive, or maybe this is Trump's idea to go on offensive, right? After all, Trump is going to transfer Tomahawk missiles to towards Europe to be deployed against Russia, isn't it? And God knows what other long-range weapon systems. But what is interesting, as I mentioned in the beginning, this evening, Trump called, evening by Moscow time, Trump called the Russian president. I believe call was initiated by American side. And, initially Axios reported that Trump was planning to speak to Russian President Putin, and then Trump himself confirmed this information. He somehow managed to post on his Truth Social that, and this is quote, by the way, "I am speaking to President Putin now. The conversation is ongoing, lengthy one, and I will report their contents, as will President Putin, at its conclusion. Thank you for your attention to this matter." what the hell? He was talking to the Russian president and simultaneously like writing the post on True Social. That's what was happening. And I mean, if so, by the way, I mean, this is so unserious, man. I mean, this Trump creature on daily basis basically humiliates US because he is formally at least president of US, embarrasses US, right? Literally on daily basis, and embarrasses human intellect, by the way, right? He is an embarrassment of human intellect, man. How these kind of morons are existing on this planet, man? I don't know. I don't get it, right? And the only question I have is why Russian president is wasting time to talking to this disgusting scum, man. Why? I don't know. And right now I'm gonna check TASS news agency. Maybe there is some details about the conversation. Right now, TASS news agency, as you can see, the offender is reporting about this phone conversation, but not about details. But TASS is pointing the public's attention to the fact that Russian and US President Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump spoke by phone on October 16, 59 days after their previous contact. This was their eighth conversation since the beginning of the year, according to this news agency. And you know what? Let me check RIA Novosti. Maybe they have some details on this phone conversation. No details, by the way, right? No details for now. Maybe conversation continues. I mean, who knows? Maybe conversation continues towards the end of this stream. I will check once again media outlets for some more details. Meanwhile, let's continue with some other news. And I did mention in today's first update that Trump, while talking to Western so-called journalists, stated that he had a conversation with Modi, and Modi reassured him that India will stop buying Russian oil. And well, he was lying, by the way. He was straight up lying, right? Because we have this report from RIA Novosti, for example, that the Indian Foreign Ministry has not confirmed that Modi spoke with Trump. The Indian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has not confirmed that Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with the US President Donald Trump yesterday. As for the question, and this is quote, as for the question of whether there was a conversation or a phone call between Prime Minister Modi and the President Trump, I am not aware of any conversation between the two leaders yesterday. Indian Foreign Ministry spokesman Radhik Jaiswal said during the briefing today. And yes, by the way, this is not the first time and definitely not the last time when Trump is just straight up making up stories, right? He claimed that he had a conversation with Modi, and Modi stated that India will no longer buy oil from Russia. And turns out that this whole story is a freaking fantasy of this sick animal that Trump is, man. Mentally ill fucking animal, man. Right? Anyways, let's continue. Why should anybody be surprised, by the way, by this? But nevertheless, I think it is important to highlight what kind of morons are in the leadership of Western world, by the way. And when they lie, they have to be challenged, right? At least by alternative media, because MSM never ever gonna challenge anyone from Western so-called elites. Also interesting news, I think, that Ukraine and the US are in talks, allegedly, over their potential purchases of American liquefied natural gas. And this was reported by Bloomberg, dear friends, citing sources. In return, Zelensky may offer Trump access for US oil companies to use Ukraine's pipeline infrastructure to export to Slovakia and Hungary. oil while cutting Russian supplies, right? Kiev also proposing cheap LNG storage in its vast underground facilities to help boost American gas exports to the rest of Europe. And if Bloomberg is correct, by the way, and these kind of talks are taking place between these intellectual bankrupts, right? Moral and intellectual bankrupts that Trump and Zelensky and all the others are among enemies of Russia, then question is how they are planning to transfer oil and LNG on Q-controlled territory first, and then into storage facilities, and then to European consumers. I mean, they're going to lift it from air. I don't think it will work, right? And when it comes to Black Sea, by the way, last time I checked, Russian militaries were in control there, right? Russian militaries have operational control, and I don't think tankers are going to be allowed, either with liquefied natural gas or with oil, going to be allowed to move around there freely, right? So what's going on? Did these people completely lost their minds? That they are now wasting time or discussing about some totally nonsensical stuff? I don't know. Maybe, man. Well, possible. I mean, Zelensky is a well-known drug addict, right? His brains definitely are cooked by now, and Trump was never known as an intellectual. So therefore, maybe these two idiots actually are talking about this stuff. Very much possible, I guess. And probably they think that they are geniuses, by the way. They are freaking geniuses, man. Unbelievable. What kind of times is this that we are living, man? Unbelievable. Every single day there are some crazy stories, right? That hard to believe, but Also, I think interesting report from Reuters that allegedly during yesterday's talks between current leader of Syria, al-Shara, and the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, and talks take place in Moscow. I report about it. Well, during those meetings, allegedly, al-Shara asked Russian president assistance, including military assistance, by the way, to somehow deter Israel, which is, okay, interesting. Let me give you some details on that. So Reuters writes that during the visit to Russia, Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara asked Vladimir Putin to return Russian troops to their south of the country. According to a publication, this is necessary for the Arab Republic to counter pressure from Israel. Al-Shara, who hopes to obtain economic concessions from Russia, including the resumption of grain supplies on preferential terms, also intends to secure Moscow's support in opposing Israeli demands to expand the demilitarized zone in southern Syria. One source said that he might raise the issue with the request to return Russian military police as guarantors against further Israeli incursions. And you know what? With this, Russia might actually help, because Russian militaries have no issue with their local ethnic or religious minorities. Russian militaries have and always had good relationships with the locals, right? With the Arabs, with the Druze community, with the Alawite community, and time to time even with the Kurdish community, right? Although, by the way, relationships with the Kurdish armed forces, I guess, still are tense. You all remember, isn't it, that several years ago, Kurdish forces call U.S. air support against Russian Wagner units, and a significant number of members of the Wagner were killed as a result of American airstrikes. This was their PMC. This was not Russian regular forces, but nevertheless, I don't think anybody has forgotten about it. And I believe everyone who was from a Kurdish side, who was involved in this crime against Russia, was killed. Literally everyone, by the way, including commander of the unit who called for air support. I mean, maybe my knowledge about it is a mistake. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, according to reports that I see, that all of them were exterminated, right? But nevertheless, relationships between Russia and the Kurdish forces in Syria are not really friendly, to say the least, right? And well, Russia may not be able to assist Damascus with their on that side of Syria, but when it comes to southern part, it's a possibility. Russia might actually send its military police, even deploy some armed forces as a to secure basically not just local communities and to ensure that there is no ethnic cleansing and that kind of stuff, right? But also to deter Israel. This might work, by the way. You see, man, even in most difficult situations, sometimes even enemies are finding coming round. And let's be real here. Current regime in Syria is just a year ago was these people were enemies of Russia, right? And so yes, interesting. I mean, times are changing, man. Times are changing, and who knows? Maybe Russia will assist, not just with some humanitarian aid. Of course, Russia will assist with that because it's aid to people, ordinary people, right? But Russia may assist her even militarily because this is also something that will benefit ordinary people there. So interesting. If Reuters is correct, by the way, then definitely some agreements might happen in this direction, and this will of course further increase security of the Russian military bases, Russian military personnel on the Russian military bases. Because if current regime in Damascus sees that presence of Russian troops is actually stabilizing the situation and is beneficial for their means of stability, then probably they will themselves do whatever they can to make sure that Russian militaries and Russian military bases are in complete security, or as much security as they possibly can provide, right? Because after all, they are now authorities there, isn't it? Anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that Trump confirmed, dear friends, that he authorized CIA to operate inside Venezuela. Of course, he didn't want to specify that CIA will work on a regime change, but we'll understand that this is going to be, of course, number one task. And this information is definitely something that worries most likely many other countries in Latin America, right? Well, when it comes to U.S. hostilities against Venezuela and irresponsible behavior, well, dear friends, Trump authorized the execution of 27 people, right, on the boats off coast of Venezuela. 27 people that were blamed to be members of their drug cartels, criminals, and so on. And even if they were drug cartel members or the criminals of some sort, who give the Trump authority to authorize execution of their people, right? Where is the due process? First of all. And secondly, by the way, who says that those people were criminals even? There was many questions about it, right? I myself was questioning this absolutely illegal activity of Trump. And today, by the way, we have reports that two citizens of Trinidad and Tobago in the recent United States basically killed two citizens of Trinidad and Tobago in their recent strike on a boat in the Caribbean, part of Washington's fabricated anti-drug operations aimed at pressuring Venezuela. And I have a video, by the way. I mean, there is an entire story in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, media outlets are going wild. People are shocked that it is becoming dangerous to go out at the sea and do some fishing or something, right? Because you might get killed, and then Trump will say, well, this was drug traffickers, right? So I have a video, dear friends. Let me show you. It's crazy, man. It's insane what Trump is doing, right? And his administration. So this is the video, and just take a look at it.
Believed to be Trinbagonians were killed in the latest U.S. drone strike of Venezuelan waters. And now Alas Cuevas' family is demanding answers.
They say Chad Joseph wasn't a trafficker, just a young man trying to come home. Jensen Levent went to the fishing village to speak with the family.
Like most of the men gathered here at the Las Cuevas fishing depot, Chad Joseph was a fisherman. Both his relatives and residents are denying strenuously that he was involved in drug trafficking. They say his killing was unjust.
When Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar said the United States should kill alleged drug dealers violently, no citizen was listed among the dead. On the U.S.'s fifth airstrike, Trinidadians Chad Joseph and another man identified only as Samaru were among 6 people killed on Tuesday, taking the number of alleged narco traffickers killed by the U.S. since September 2nd to 27. Joseph's grandfather, Cornell Clement, who denied his grandson was a drug trafficker, says he has no choice but to trust in God. Now he questions the U.S.'s method of dealing with the situation.
I watch it as wickedness. Because why we killing people children for? They're not meant that way. They're supposed to be that way.
You say he was a drug trafficker, like he was.
No. The boy is no drug trafficker. He just make them run and come back.
Joseph's grandmother, Christine, says her grandson was in Venezuela for the past 3 months and wanted desperately to return home, but his previous attempts failed.
The first time he was coming, they shoot up the boat. He ended up surviving on some little beach, and some people take time because I talked to him and I talked to one of the ladies too. And the second time I heard he come in, I get his mother 2 days ago. I asked her. She told me he must come in and something with the boat again, so he go back.
A short distance away, residents of Las Cuevas village one man expressed
what the U.S. doing there? I think it's inhumane, right? If all they really want, right, all they blow the boat up. What evidence it have showing really is drugs, and stuff like that. Like we say, is guns, or even say is human trafficking, anything. We can. What is the closure the family having now?
Calls and messages to the Prime Minister and Defense Minister Wayne Sturge went unanswered. Months ago, Sturge said during a post-cabinet media briefing that any Trini fisherman caught doing illegal activity was on their own. Foreign Affairs Minister Sean Sobers was unavailable for comment. Jensen Lavend, CNC3 News.
So you see, dear friends, that's the people that Trump is killing there. According to this report, some fishermen from Trinidad and Tobago were executed by Trump under Trump's orders. And I remind you that our Colombian president recently also made a statement that during these attacks on boats, U.S. militaries killed Colombian citizens too. So I don't know, man. I don't even know what to say about it, man. It seems like Washington is completely out of control. Trump's administration is completely out of control, and they are becoming more and more dangerous for literally everybody in this world, right? Literally everybody in this world. Let's continue with some other news. And OSCE chief was fined for attending the rally in Tbilisi. Foreign minister, actually, of Finland, dear friends, about whom I reported in my recent updates, either yesterday or day before. So, Georgian Ministry of Internal Affairs fined their OSCE chairperson in office and the Finnish foreign minister Elena Voltanen for illegally blocking a road while attending a rally in Tbilisi. Immediate TV reports this, citing the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Voltanen was fined for participating in a small rally outside of Georgian parliament. I show you a video, isn't it, during the report, when I report about this appearance of her on that rally of the Western-controlled elements in Tbilisi. So Voltanen was fined for participating in a small rally outside of Georgian parliament on October 14. By law, demonstrators are only allowed to block the roadway if they cannot fit within their pedestrian zone. The fine for this violation is 5,000 lari, approximately 1.8 thousand US dollars. On Thursday, the Georgian Foreign Ministry sent a note of protest to OSCE Secretariat over Voltanen's attendance at the rally and their statement she made later. Finnish foreign minister arrived in Georgia on Tuesday as a part of a tour of South Caucasus. That same day, she attended a small protest outside of Georgian parliament in Tbilisi, where she met with the protesters and posted a video on social media site X, in which she said a large crowd was attending. In the video, Voltanen also expressed support for the protesters who she said were protesting their deprivation of their fundamental freedoms. The following day, Georgian Prime Minister Kobakhidze canceled the planned meeting with the Voltanen due to her actions. And well done to Tbilisi, by the way. What can I say? She should never be allowed to enter Georgia to begin with, but nevertheless, at least Georgian authorities reacted on this outrageous behavior of the Finnish foreign minister, right? When she went to this rally of Western-controlled elements in Georgia and began making political statements, which is crazy, isn't it? And you saw video, dear friends. When I was reporting about it, I shared the video also about her statements. So interesting. I like that news. Also, dear friends, as I already mentioned, Washington is threatening China with not just with 100% tariffs that Trump announced recently, that will be enforced from 1st of November, but Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent went to threaten China with 500% tariffs for buying Russian oil, which is crazy, isn't it? Which is crazy. We should keep in mind, dear friends, that U.S. continues to buy Russian enriched uranium. And this year, U.S. will pay Russia approximately $1.2 billion. Not $1, not $2, not even 5 or 10. $1.2 billion U.S. will pay Russia this year alone for enriched uranium. And Washington is whining about her other countries cooperating with Russia in the energy sector. How crazy is that? But nevertheless, I don't think U.S. will go ahead with this 500% tariffs, because this will destroy U.S. consumer market. Absolutely. I mean, China can survive this, but U.S. economy, I don't think so, right? But these people are crazy. So, I mean, anything to be expected. But nevertheless, China is not afraid. Chinese foreign minister, Chinese ambassador, Chinese foreign ministry spokesman, Chinese ambassador in U.S. already made the statements that Washington chose the wrong language of communication with China. Washington should be more respectful and cooperative and communicate without threats. That will be, and they will manage to achieve more success, right? Well, Chinese officials are basically lecturing American counterparts of theirs how to behave, or how cultural people should behave, right? Which is true, by the way. I mean, when you take a look at the officials from US or from Western countries, I mean, one of the first things that comes to your mind is where these people grow up and why these people are that despicable, you know? But anyways, it's not just China that US is threatening. US President Donald Trump went to threaten with the tariffs of Spain also, because Spanish leadership is refusing to increase military spendings and purchases of American weapons, basically, on a level of 5% of the GDP of the country. And well, Madrid seems like is getting sick and tired of these attacks from Washington. And Spain's Deputy Prime Minister Yolanda Diaz warned that if US imposes additional tariffs on her country, it will backfire on Trump himself. And as I said, she was responding to Trump's statements when he threatened the tariffs on Spain over the low NATO spendings. And this is interesting. Clearly, there is tensions between the NATO member states, and these tensions, NATO and EU member states, and these tensions are becoming more and more visible, isn't it? They are struggling to hide these tensions, which is, I will say, good, by the way, because Western elites are evil force. Western elites, so-called elites, are existential threat for humanity, and weaker they are, the better for the humanity, right? For all of humanity, no matter where you live. I mean, in the West, in the East, South, North. Western so-called elites are enemies of everybody, right? Threat to all of humanity for sure. And well, we also know Trump went to say, like day before yesterday, isn't it? That he basically decimated BRICS. He threatened BRICS member states with the tariffs and with this and that. And these countries now, BRICS member states, are running away from this organization and leaving it. And no one wants to hear anything about BRICS. And he almost basically declared that BRICS is dead, right? I shared video of his statements, by the way. Many members of Cabinet probably have seen it. And Kremlin spokesperson of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, was asked about it. And this is his response. Kremlin knows nothing about their alleged intentions of the BRICS member countries to leave the union due to US tariffs, as stated by Trump. He noted that BRICS has never planned anything against the third countries. And yes, this is response. This is response, by the way. I mean, probably you already know that Russian officials are quite diplomatic in their comments, even when they have been asked to comment about some ridiculous stuff, right? In this particular case, about these crazy statements of Trump, Peskov could also, of course, go into trolling there and technically insult Trump, highlight that he's a freaking moron, but he did not. He maintained politeness, let's say, in his statement, which is, I guess, okay. This is right approach, but someday someone gonna say everything openly, right? Because things are becoming truly ridiculous, man. Every single day, Western elites are coming up with some nonsense after nonsense after nonsense, and I mean, everybody's sick and tired of it, right? And while Trump, U.S. administration, Brussels, British elites are pressuring everybody, sort of, to stop cooperating with Russia, we have this interesting report from Hungary that Budapest expects construction of their PAX 2 nuclear power plant to begin no later than early February of the next year, right? In a couple of months' time. And you guess who's going to build this nuclear power plant in Hungary, by the way? Rosatom, Russia, going to build the nuclear power plant in Hungary. And I mean, let's hope no one going to tell about this Donald Trump, because he's going to jump out of his socks, man, when he hears about it, right? So, yes, by the way, I mean, there are some countries in the very same collective West that has leadership that are actually focused on best interests of their own people. And obviously, additional nuclear power plant is going to be beneficial for Hungarian economy and subsequently for Hungarian people. As purchases of Russian energy, oil and gas are benefiting Hungarians, and as all the other ways of cooperation between the two countries are beneficial for both Russian economy, Hungarian economy, Russian people, Hungarian people. So, I mean, one might only hope that someday maybe all Western countries will have a leadership that will care about their own fellow citizens, right? More than they care about some sick geopolitical agendas that modern Western elites have and they're operating based on. And to end this news segment, dear friends, I give you this information from RIA Novosti, which is based on IMF, International Monetary Fund. So Russia's public debt level in 2025 will be the lowest among the G20 countries, according to International Monetary Fund report. And the IMF is not Russia's friend, by the way. IMF is controlled by the West. We all know that, isn't it? So according to organization's calculations, it will amount, Russia's public debt will amount to 23.1% of the GDP, which is, I don't like it. I mean, it's seems to be high for me personally, right? But let's look how things are in other countries, right? The average value of this indicator for G20 countries with the developing economies will reach 78.7% of the GDP this year, while for the countries with the developed economies will be 120.8%. So compared to these numbers, you clearly can see that Russian public debt is actually low, very low, right? Even if I personally would, I would prefer to see there are zeros, right? Not 23.1%, but zeros, right? That would be better, but nevertheless, this information also indicates, at least, isn't it, that Russian economy is doing quite okay despite all these tens of thousands of sanctions from the West, despite all this pressure on the country, and we have good enough reasons, by the way, here in Russia to be relatively optimistic in regards to our economy and their prospects for the near future and in the long run, because if Russian economy withstand this pressure, by the way, from now on, it's only gonna get easier, right? It's only gonna get better. That's how I think. Anyways, right? And so this is it. This is it for now, dear friends. For the news segment, hopefully you did find it informative and interesting, useful, and if so, please like the video, share video with your friends, and leave some commentary. This might help to deal with the algorithm. And well, there was no super chat, isn't it? There was no super chat during the stream, but there is a donation through PayPal from Harry. Thank you very much, Harry, for your $12 donation. And comment from Harry is from Harry C. Smith on YouTube. So you, okay. Thank you very much, Harry C. Smith. I appreciate your support. Grateful for that. Thank you. A donation originally was $15, right? PayPal just takes some percentage. That's how it works. All the platforms do take, of course, some percentage, and that's how it is. So thank you very much, Harry, for your donation and support. And so this is it for now, dear friends. Hopefully you did like the video. I tried, dear friends, to prepare good update. And before I go, I just remember, dear friends, before I go, I have to check media outlets, right? Maybe there is some update on Trump-Putin call. Let me check right now. Okay, we have information that phone conversation has ended, Fox News reported that phone conversation between Trump and Putin has ended, but no details for now. Okay. I guess in next 15-20 minutes, or maybe in next hour or so, we will get some details about this conversation between Trump and Putin. I don't expect anything special, really. But nevertheless, I will, of course, monitor media outlets, dear friends, and therefore, for tomorrow morning, in tomorrow morning's update at 11 a.m. Moscow time, I will share information about this conversation and all the other interesting news that will be reported here in Russian by Russian media. This is it for now, dear friends. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye for now.